Good evening, everybody. My name is Furqan Habib, and I'm basically an architect. So here I'm going to argue about objects as artifacts, and basically what I'm going to look into is that how can we see objects as beyond as statics and functional appeal, and combine it together with today's digital-driven and digital world that we have today. So if we look at artifacts, what do we mean by artifacts? So this is a typical, when you Google it, this is kind of an answer you get. It's actually a typical objects that embody culture and heritage interests of a certain kind of people. So when you Google it, you get this kind of images. All these images are objects that are symbolic of certain kind of a culture that depicts their technology, that depicts their interests, that depicts their beliefs, their interests and their rituals, and so on. So what is I trying to do over here? What I kind of did for like past few years is that if you look at objects over the time acquire emotional value, and the watch given to you by your grandmother, or the object, or for example the lamp that you bought, or the car that you bought, over time it acquires a certain kind of value for you. All right, okay. So I thought that how can we reverse this whole thing? Instead of ending up with some emotional value, how about this, that we do the start with what we end? So as I said previously, what I do is computational design. That's my interest. And the basic logic of computational design is simple as that. You have an input, you get your process, and then you get your output. So the process is something that you design, and input are the values that you plug in. And very often you don't know how the object is going to look in the end, but based upon the input and the process, you just retweak it and redo it and so on. So this is a project that I once did. It basically was an idea. Though it was a competition project, and the idea with that project was that how do we create a memorial graveyard for a departed person? So the idea was that in today's world, what we have is kind of two lives. One is this virtual life, one is the real life, and the other one is this digital life. So how about this, that over the course of time, your digital life tends to accumulate the number of likes you have on your Facebook, number of objects, number of things that you share on Facebook, and so on and so on and so on. So what if we take those things over the course of your life and we layer them upon each other, and based upon some data, we cherry pick some data, and we get some kind of cross sections of polygons, layer these polygons on each other. So in the end, we end up with some kind of object that is symbolic of that data information. So you can easily 3D print this object, and in the end, this object is basically translation of virtual data into in a physical form. So that was the one thing. That actually became the starting point. This was like 3 years back. So I put this is an object, this is a kind of thing that I do, this furniture that I do. This is actually a lamp, which is like layered upon each other, and it's a series of cross sections. And later on I will go into the process. And this is actually the other variation of it. So as I said, input, process, and the output. And this is how it looks when you just light it up. This is actually the logical diagram of it. That's the way how it looks. It's basically what you have is series of circular cross sections. You have these points. Based upon these points, by varying them, here they are varied randomly. So by varying them randomly, and then obtaining these cross sections of various forms, you loft them together, and then you just slice it up together. You get these pieces, you laser cut them, you CNC cut them, and then you layer them upon each other, and you end up with something like this. These are just few variations that you can produce. Right now, these points are randomly displaced, and by varying few points, you get various kind of results out of it. So this is kind of result that you get just by changing your input, like number of points, how many points you want, and things like this. So based upon, as I said previously, as to how we can turn digital information and turn it into something else. So how about this? Instead of changing these numbers randomly, let's just give it some meaning to it. This is the same thing, but in a different way. So what we start off with a thunder. take its audio file, map its number, and by those numbers we get some various kind of curves that embodies those points. So instead of those points that you have over here, is actually driven from the sound of that thunder. So by these points, you just loften them together, use the same process, and then you end up with something like this. So what you see is this, you have these curves, then they split up, you have this more of curves over here, more waves over here, and then they merge into each other. So what it basically is basically a transformation of a sound wave of thunder translated into a physical object. Well, this was actually preconceived. I wanted to have it in lamp form. So this is how it looks when you just light it up. It's all four sides of it, and so on. This is actually in acrylic. So it's actually nothing really new, what I have done here. Because as a computational designer, what you do is this, you devise systems and processes, and in those systems, you change your values, and out of those systems comes a certain kind of output. So this is nothing really new, because if you look at nature, nature is a very good study of various systems and processes. And one example is Aurora Borealis. So what is basically is happening over here is that you have Earth's magnetic field, and what you have over here is this, you have one loop going on this way, the other loop goes on the other way, and then you have a gap over here, and on that gap, you have cosmic particles entering into the Earth's atmosphere. And as those cosmic particles, they enter the Earth's atmosphere, they disintegrate, lose their energy. You have this visualization of Aurora Borealis. So one way of seeing Aurora Borealis is basically a visualization of cosmic particles entering the Earth's atmosphere. Their magnitude and their sizes gives you this certain kind of result of what you would see over there.